Discover the incredible heartwarming journey of Egyptian mythology. 5 hidden truths that will transform your life. Before dawn broke over the small town of Cedar Grove, Emma Thompson was already awake. The sun had yet to rise, but her day began with the soft sound of her children, Lucy and Max, stirring in their sleep. Her heart swelled with love and exhaustion. She quickly brewed coffee, the rich aroma filling their cozy kitchen, and prepared breakfast oatmeal with a sprinkle of cinnamon, just how Max liked it. Every morning felt like a mountain climb, her 2 jobs, bills, and their dreams pressing on her shoulders. Yet, every time she looked at her kids, a rush of determination coursed through her veins. She was their hero, and that was enough to keep her going as she hurriedly packed their lunches. Emma was reminded of her grandfather's tales of resilience, the business he built from scratch in this very town. Those stories were her guiding light, infusing her with hope. But as she pulled on her coat and kissed her kids goodbye, uncertainty shadowed her every thought. Each paycheck felt like a battle against an advancing tide of bills that threatened to drown her. One day, while sorting through her late grandfather's attic, she stumbled upon an enigmatic box coated with dust. Inside, she discovered an ancient Egyptian artifact, a beautifully crafted amulet, glowing softly in the muted light. Its delicate engravings held secrets of a long-forgotten past, and Emma felt an inexplicable connection pulse through her. It was a piece of her heritage, a reminder of the values her grandfather had embodied: integrity, perseverance, and dedication. Intrigued, Emma began unearthing the amulet's story, and with each revelation, she felt a spark reignite within her. Egyptian mythology whispered secrets of strength, reminding her of the importance of belief in oneself. As she embraced these lessons, she felt courage build inside her. Perhaps she really could transform her family's reality. Then came the offer. A local entrepreneur approached her with a tantalizing opportunity to breathe new life into her grandfather's dormant cafe. The prospect of providing stability for her family sent shivers of excitement through her. But shadows of doubt crept in, tugging at her heart. The cafe was tied to her grandfather's legacy, and she couldn't shake the feeling of disloyalty as ambition danced in her mind. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Emma prepared to dive into her new venture, a wave of crisis hit. Medical bills suffocated her finances. Her mind raced. How could she afford her children's needs? With her heart pounding, she faced mounting pressure from all sides. Suddenly, the cafe opportunity dangled as a lifeline and a burden. A bittersweet promise of potential freedom that felt just beyond her grasp. A community meeting. Emma felt the weight of all eyes on her, whispers buzzing like a swarm. They wanted answers, and deep down she needed them too. She took a deep breath, surprised by the strength of her own voice, as she stood to defend her family's honor. In that moment, she realized she was not just battling for herself. She was fighting for every family in Cedar Grove, wrestling with their own dreams and burdens. The air crackled with energy, and Emma could feel her fate hanging in the balance. Would she step forward or hold back? The walls of uncertainty loomed high, but the promise of hope lingered close. The true question loomed: what does it really mean to chase the American dream? Emma's heart raced as she absorbed the apprehensive murmur in the crowded community hall. The air felt heavy, almost stifling, with anticipation. Would she have the courage to speak? She wrestled with the fear of failure, but deep within, the flicker of determination ignited anew. The amulet she had discovered lingered at the forefront of her mind, its history reminding her that hope and resilience had always thrived in adversity. With her voice trembling slightly, she opened her mouth to speak. "I know things are tough right now," she began, her tone steadying as she acclimated to the moment. "I felt the pressure, the heartache, and the uncertainty that many of you are living with. When I look around this room, I see not just faces of friends but families fighting their own battles. We are stronger together. A surprising wave of warmth washed over her as she watched the crowd lean in, their eyes reflecting her sincerity. Each nod and murmur of agreement bolstered her confidence. She continued, "My grandfather taught me that sometimes our biggest breakthroughs come from our deepest challenges. I know that running the cafe may seem like a huge risk, but I believe it can be a light for us, a place where we can gather, share stories, and support each other." The crowd remained silent, absorbing her words. Emma felt her pulse quicken, but she pressed on. "Every morning, I wake up scared. Scared of not providing for my children. Scared of letting my grandfather's memory fade into the background. But I refuse to let fear stop me. I'm willing to fight for this cafe, our community, and our dreams. Who's with me?" A wave of applause broke out, echoing in the hall. Faces lit up with newfound hope and encouragement. People began to rise, expressing their support and stories of their own struggles. In that moment, Emma felt the weight of her doubts begin to lift. She wasn't alone. It wasn't just her fight. It was theirs, too. As the energy shifted in the room, the community's connection blossomed into something tangible. Ideas began to circulate, ways to fundraise, revitalize the cafe, and create a sanctuary of resilience and positivity. Emma felt the fire of transformation blaze within her, urging her forward, igniting a sense of purpose she had almost forgotten. Seeing Lucy and Max at the back, wide-eyed and proud, brought tears to her eyes. They were witnessing their mother transform fear into action, and with every moment, the narrative of their family story was shifting. As the meeting drew to a close, people lingered, buzzing with energy and optimism. Emma began to envision the cafe again, not just as a place to brew coffee but as a hub of community and support, where dreams could flourish together. Then, just as she felt the warm blanket of hope wrap around her heart, an unexpected figure approached her. It was the entrepreneur who had brought her the offer. His expression was one of determination mixed with urgency, and Emma felt her breath hitch. "Emma, there's more at stake than just the cafe. I need you to understand. What could he possibly mean?" A chill slithered through her, unsettling her newfound courage. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice tightening with concern. His eyes bored deep into hers, revealing shadows of secrets yet to be uncovered. "The cafe's past holds more than just memories, and it might change everything." A twinge of fear rippled through Emma. She had fought so hard for this chance. If the cafe's history held hidden truths, what would it mean for her and the community she was beginning to believe in so much? Would those secrets strengthen her resolve or tear everything apart? The air grew thick with tension as he leaned closer. Emma's heart raced, caught somewhere between excitement and dread. This was just the beginning. But would she be ready for the truth? Emma's eyes widened as she searched the man's face for answers. Confusion and fear waged war within her. Just when she had started to feel that glimmer of hope, he was tossing a weighty burden into her hands. "What kind of secrets?" she whispered, unable to mask the tremor in her voice. He glanced around the hall, lowering his tone. "This cafe, it was once a hub of something much larger, something that ties into the town's history. People came here long before you or me. They fought for something significant, and some of those battles were dark." Her stomach dropped. She felt as if the floor beneath her feet had vanished. "Dark? You mean like?" He shook his head. "I can't explain everything here. You need to trust me. If you're going to proceed with this cafe, you need to know what you're getting into. There are families who will want answers, and some truths might be better left buried." The words hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. Emma felt a knot twist in her chest. Would the community still support her if they knew the cafe's past bore scars? What if the history didn't align with her dreams, shattering the fragile hope she had begun to weave for herself and others? "Emma!" A familiar voice jolted her from her thoughts. It was Marissa, the friendly librarian and a steadfast figure in their community. "We need you on the planning committee for the cafe revamp. You're the heart of this endeavor." Emma flashed a strained smile, but deep down, the man's warning echoed relentlessly, stirring doubts in her heart. How could she lead with an uncertain foundation? She had fought for this community so fiercely, but at what cost? As the gathering began to disperse, she felt an odd mixture of electricity and apprehension. The transformative energy of the meeting buzzed in her bones, but the shadow of the entrepreneurial man lingered like a storm cloud overhead. Emma! Marissa beckoned again, this time with urgency, and pulled her aside. Are you okay? You seem distant. I'm fine. Just processing everything, Emma said, her voice barely audible. Don't worry too much, Marissa reassured her, squeezing her hand softly. You have support. We believe in you, and I know you're going to do great things. Let us brainstorm those ideas for the cafe. Who knows what it might turn into? Emma forced herself to nod, the warmth of Marissa's encouragement providing a slight refuge against the turmoil. But dread still crept in. What if she was leading everyone down a path of disillusion? What if there was more truth to uncover? With heavy thoughts swirling in her mind, Emma took a shuddering breath. Yes, let us brainstorm. She plastered a smile on her face, though it felt stitched and fragile. As the crowd began to disperse and people drifted off, a familiar face appeared. It was Lucy and Max, their expressions bright with excitement. Mom, we're so proud of you. You were amazing. Amazing, Max echoed, climbing onto her hip. Emma felt a swell of pride mixed with tears of uncertainty. Thank you, my loves. I hope we can make this a place for everyone. We just have to be brave. Max leaned in closer, whispering conspiratorially, what do we do if someone tries to take it away? A chill went down Emma's spine. If only the answer were simple. She knelt to his level, her heart aching at his innocent bravery. We will fight for what's right together. Promise. But deep inside, the unease gnawed at her. Was she truly prepared for whatever lay hidden beneath the cafe's surface? The path ahead was steep, littered with questions and uncertainties. Would she dare unravel the threads of history that could either enrich or shatter everything she had built? As she looked into her children's eager eyes, she knew one thing for certain. The truth was coming, and it would either bind them closer or tear them apart. That thought lingered as Emma moved through the crowd and back toward the cafe, uncertainty lingering like a shadow at her back. What hidden truths awaited her? And could she face them, no matter the cost? The cafe stood before Emma, its facade familiar yet foreign. As she pushed the door open, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with pastries pulled her back momentarily from the chaos of her thoughts. The warm chatter of patrons greeted her, but the faces blurred together like paint running in a masterpiece gone awry. Her heart raced, a drum echoing in her ears, drowning out the comforting ambience. Marissa seemed to sense the storm brewing in Emma. She placed a gentle hand on her arm. Want to take a breather? Maybe step into the office and regroup? Emma nodded, grateful for the escape. Inside the small office, cluttered with papers and ideas competing for attention, she felt slightly more at ease. The world outside faded as she sank into a chair, head in hand, grappling with the weighty words from the stranger. I can't believe this cafe has such a complicated history, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. History is like that, filled with twists and turns, Marissa replied gently, taking a seat across from her. But you're not alone in this. You've got a community ready to support whatever you decide. They're inspired by you. Emma looked up into Marissa's comforting gaze. But what if they're not ready to face the past? We can handle the past together, her friend said with firmness. Every great story has shadows, but it's how we overcome them that matters. The words lingered. Emma took a deep breath, pulling resolve from the roots of her uncertainty. What if I reach out to the families who have a stake in the cafe's history? We could dig deeper and see if we can face this together. Marissa's eyes lit up. That's the spirit. You'll learn about the past and write a new story your story. Just as a spark of hope ignited within Emma, she heard the faint chime of the cafe's bell. In walked the man who had unsettled her earlier. His presence was commanding, and the atmosphere shifted, thickening with tension. Emma's heart raced again. This wasn't over. He approached with a purposeful stride, and she anticipated his words, heart pounding. Emma, he said, his voice steady as he reached her side. About what I mentioned earlier, you need to be aware that some of the past 1T come knocking, it LL come crashing down. People have been hurt, and truths may resurface in unexpected ways. The weight of his statement crashed into her like a wave. Emma met his gaze, her spine straightening. Then I'll face it head-on. I owe it to this community and to myself. I can't let fear dictate this cafe's future. He studied her as if assessing the sincerity in her voice. Just know, people will react differently. Some will be unwilling, even hostile. Then I'll work to change that. We're all a part of this town, aren't we? Emma could feel the empowering rush of determination swell, battling against the fear. If I'm going to embrace this project, I have to embrace its truth. The man nodded slowly, a hint of respect flashing across his face. You're braver than I thought. But remember, courage is different from confrontation. As the conversation continued, Emma felt the sharp edges of her fears dull. With each word, she was crafting a shield against the doubts that haunted her. The truth and history were daunting, but for her community, for her children, she would stand firm. The air shifted again when the man said, "Should you choose to proceed, be ready. Because once you dig, you can never be sure of what you might unearth." His words dripped with foreboding, but Emma felt a fire ignite within her, urging her forward. What lay beneath the surface? What battles were waiting to be acknowledged? As she stood up, her resolve solidified. Let us make this cafe the heart of our town. It deserves a future. With final nods exchanged, Emma stepped back into the bustling cafe, her breath steadying. One question churned in her mind like an unwanted echo. Was she truly ready to face whatever was waiting in those dark corners of their history? Just then, she caught sight of a small crowd gathered near the window, their expressions tense and animated. Curiosity piqued. She moved closer, heart racing again. What had they discovered now? And what secrets were waiting just beyond the surface? Emma stepped through the throng of patrons, her heart drumming in her chest. As she approached the gathered crowd, she could feel their collective energy, a pulsating mix of anticipation and anxiety. Faces turned towards her, whispering, some eyebrows furrowed, others filled with curiosity. She squeezed her way through, striving to get a better glimpse of whatever was causing this stir. Just as she reached the edge of the group, she heard a name that sent a chill down her spine. Did you hear? They're talking about the old ledger, the one that belonged to the cafe's first owner. The voice was low, but the gravity of the words echoed in her ear. The first owner? She felt an instinctive pull toward the urgency of the moment. Without thinking, she called out, "What are you all looking at?" The murmurs grew quieter, and the crowd parted just enough for her to see through to the window display. An older gentleman, Mr. Caldwell, the town historian, stood with a worn, leather-bound book in hand. His voice was steady, and as he spoke, she felt the room shift, the air thickening, the silence sharpening. "Inside this book lies the story of our community," he said, glancing up to meet Emma's anxious eyes. "This cafe is only the tip of the iceberg. The truth about what happened here long ago has shaped us more than we realize." Emma's chest constricted. "What do you mean?" she asked, fighting to keep the shake out of her voice. She could feel Marissa's hand on her shoulder, steady and grounding. "It goes beyond recipes and regulars," Mr. Caldwell continued. "There were ties to families, ties that still linger. If this ledger is as complete as I believe, it might hold more than just accounts. It could reveal relationships, heartaches, and even the motivations that led to the cafe's decline. It's a story of love and betrayal, victory and loss." Gasps echoed from the crowd. Emma's heartbeat quickened. The man's earlier warning played on repeat in her mind. Once she dug, she could never be sure of what she'd unearth. But there it was, right before her, an authentic piece of their collective history. What if it's all bad? Her voice trembled slightly. What if it opens up wounds that have barely scarred? Caldwell's expression softened. History is a tapestry. There are colors of joy and pain, but only by acknowledging the entire weave can we hope to find healing. Determination surged within Emma once again, fueled by the collective hope of those around her. then we can't shy away. This cafe's story belongs to all of us. If there are shadows, we'll bring them to light together. Her words sparked a wave of nods and murmurs of agreement. Just then, someone in the crowd shouted, "Let us gather the stories. We owe it to our community to face the past." Excitement bubbled. This was it. This was the first step toward understanding, toward reconciliation, and Emma felt buoyed by the collective energy that flowed through the cafe. It ignited something deep within, a yearning to unearth the truth, however daunting it might be. But then, as the crowd erupted in discussions about next steps, Emma caught the man's gaze across the cafe. A knowing look passed between them, laden with unspoken fears. Did he sense that this newfound drive might push them all into unknown territory? As the chatter began to pick up momentum, Emma glanced back at the ledger being passed around the room. What if the truth inside these pages revealed more than they were prepared to handle? In that moment, a sinking feeling crept into her stomach. Was she ready to embrace whatever darkness lay ahead? As she stepped further into the cafe's heart, her mind raced. What would the pages reveal? What connections could emerge, ready to change everything? The thought lingered as she prepared to delve into the past, trepidation and excitement clashing inside her. Was she truly brave enough to rewrite their history? Even as the voices of her community rallied around her, one question remained, piercing and urgent. How deep did the roots of this cafe's story run? Emma took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts as she watched the ledger being passed among the crowd. The old book whispered promises of lost tales, hidden connections, and secrets that had rested quietly in the shadows for far too long. It was captivating, yet terrifying, and she had to remind herself that she was not alone in this journey. Marissa's hand still rested on her shoulder, a small anchor in the rising tide of excitement and uncertainty. What if it tells us about the cafe's past owners? Marissa encouraged, sensing Emma's hesitation. We could uncover stories that connect us all. Think of the community we can build. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation. Emma nodded, but unease lingered. What if some stories shattered the bonds they had? What if love turned to betrayal, or hope to despair? But even as those thoughts troubled her, a deeper desire whispered from within. Maybe understanding and healing lay just beyond the pages. Tension buzzed in the air as Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat, calling for silence. The lovely chatter fell into a hush, replaced by curious glances and expectant faces. To truly honor this cafe and those who came before us, we must dig deeper, he said, the ledger held out like a treasure. We need volunteers to help me preserve the stories within this book. As he spoke, Emma glanced around the cafe. People were nodding along, excitement bubbling in their chests. Murmurs of approval erupted among them, fueled by a common need to know and understand their own history. She could almost feel the pulse of their shared yearning. What couldn't they achieve together? Before she realized it, her own hand shot up, almost as if controlled by a force she couldn't contain. I'll help, Mr. Caldwell. Her voice rang with conviction. A wave of gasps swept through the crowd, followed by some who echoed her commitment. Me too. Count me in. A spark lit in Caldwell's eyes. Wonderful. We will need strength from everyone, and this is just the start. As they began to form groups, Emma felt a mix of nervousness and resolve. She was committed now, and as the adrenaline surged, so too did the apprehension. Every story could reshape their understanding of the cafe, perhaps even their relationships with one another. Days passed as they meticulously dug through the history. Each group collected tales from those who once called the cafe home, gathering love stories, heartaches, and triumphs. Emma listened intently, jotting down details, enchanted by the vibrant tapestry that began to emerge. But with the good also came shadows. Distrust lingered in some accounts, and Emma found herself regretting a few revelations. Secrets about friendships that soured, families torn apart, and moments of greed bubbled to the surface, twisting the simple narrative into something far more complicated. Then came the day when they found a letter tucked within the pages of the ledger, a fragile piece of history that felt charged with energy. Emma looked around as everyone went quiet, gathering in closer. She could feel the collective holding of breath, anticipation electrifying the air. She opened the letter, her hands trembling. The words danced before her eyes: love, loss, and a warning that bound the history of the cafe to a family feud that ignited generations ago. Emma felt the weight of it all crashing down on her. Would this revelation bring unity, or tear them apart even more? The cafe, which once felt like a home, was now a place of vulnerability. As she read the last line, a chill crept through her. This was more than history. It was a family legacy steeped in turmoil. What would they all do with this information? Emma turned to the crowd, the eyes now wide with shock and anticipation. Hearts racing, questions teetering on their lips. They had crossed a threshold, and nothing would ever be the same again. Would they face the truth together? Just then, a noise from the back of the cafe drew her attention, a voice, quiet but unmistakable. Someone was speaking, a familiar figure stepping forward. The revelation she feared loomed closer than anyone had anticipated, ready to threaten their journey toward healing. Emma's heart raced as she recognized the figure emerging from the shadows. It was Grace, herself a longtime fixture of the cafe and the owner's granddaughter. The dim light outlined her features, making her look more like a ghost than a person. There was an undercurrent of tension that surged through the room, thick as fog, as everyone turned to listen. Everyone. Grace's voice quivered slightly, but she pressed on. There's something you all need to know. The weight of her gaze fell on Emma, a deep sadness swimming in her eyes. What is it, Grace? Emma ventured, the words spilling out before her caution could halt them. The air was electric with anticipation, as they sensed a deeper layer of the story waiting to unfold. My family has been tied to this cafe for generations, Grace said, her words hesitatingly spilling forth. We thought we knew the history, but my grandmother had a secret. She cleared her throat, a mix of determination and pain crossing her face. The letter you just found, it contains truths buried beneath layers of survival and shame. Marissa squeezed Emma's shoulder tighter, and Emma leaned closer, her heart pounding louder. This revelation felt significant, the kind that might shake their foundations completely. What do you mean? Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Grace began to explain, piecing together a tale of love and betrayal, of her grandmother's youthful romance that fractured amidst social tensions and family loyalties. Fiercely protective, the family had buried away the memories, only to see that same turmoil shaping the stories of those who came to the cafe long after. You see, the feud wasn't just between families, Grace said, her voice trembling. It was an entire community's fault. Their choices, their biases, they all played a part. Her voice was filled with sadness, as if carrying the weight of every single choice made in silence. Suddenly, the reality of what they had unearthed settled heavily in the air. Each person within the cafe was intertwined not just with their past, but with each other. Would these painful revelations draw them closer together or push them further apart? Grace continued, revealing a well of emotions poured into generations. But we can change this. We can heal together just like my grandmother wanted. Hope stirred within Emma. Maybe this was their chance to rewrite the future. But uncertainty hovered overhead like an uninvited guest. How do we do that? She asked earnestly, her own vision of unity flashing before her. I don't know, Grace admitted, her whisper trembling. But it starts with all of us facing it together. Gripped with a sense of urgency, Emma looked around the room. The faces were a mix of shock, concern, and intrigue. Would they have the strength to confront the past that so clearly defined them? Emma felt a rush of something, courage, perhaps. For the first time since unraveling the letter, she sensed possibility blooming amidst the chaos. Just then, a small voice piped up from the back, cutting through the heavy silence. What if we looked for ways to honor their stories? Can we celebrate the beauty that came out of this pain? A young boy stood, his innocent enthusiasm refreshing in the gloom. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Emma's heart soared at the idea. Celebrate. Maybe that was exactly how to mend the wounds. As discussions began erupting, Emma could feel the palpable energy shift, fragile but filled with promise. But just as the spark of hope ignited a flurry of ideas, a shadow fell across the doorway. An old man from the back, a long-forgotten member of the community, stepped forward, his presence an unexpected weight, and he looked ready to disclose secrets of his own. What would he bring to light? And would it forge a new connection or expose a deep rift in their growing unity? The old man's eyes locked onto Grace, then drifted to the rest of the crowd. They were a mix of faces, some hopeful, some skeptical, and he must have sensed the anticipation hanging in the air. A grandfatherly sort of warmth contrasted with the weight of his unshared stories. The tension rippled through the cafe, demanding silence. "Listen," he began, his voice roughened by age yet steady. "I am Thomas Swade. I've lived here longer than many of you have been alive, and I've seen how history can twist like a vine, choking the very life out of truth. Your grandmother's secret, it runs deeper than you know." Emma felt the shift. The way he spoke felt like an invocation, an honoring of the past even as it had festered. The room had stilled so completely that she could hear her own breathing, a rapid rhythm against the slow thrum of her heart. "Life here has been more than just coffee and muffins," Thomas continued. "It was about a community divided. But those divisions, they aren't irreversible. I stand before you, an old man, asking for courage. Courage to face our shared lineage and the mistakes we've made." There was something haunting in his words. Emma glanced at Grace, whose lips parted in disbelief. Could it be true? Were they really standing at the precipice of unearthing something larger than themselves? "I knew Grace's grandmother well," Thomas said, his voice softer now, almost tender. "She was a beacon in dark times, trying to mend ties frayed by prejudice. But the past never dies easily, does it? Not when we bury it like a body we can't let go of." "Why didn't you speak up sooner?" someone from the back dared to ask. There was tension in her voice, perhaps anger or disbelief. With a faint smile, Thomas replied, "Because these stories aren't mine to excavate alone. They require the hands of many. Secrets buried too long can weigh down like stones in the heart." The cafe was now alive with murmurs. Emma felt a mixture of empathy and resentment towards this man. There was power in his revelation, but also frustration at his silence until now. Did he believe there was more to gain in holding onto the past rather than confronting it? "Each story we share," he continued, "will lead us toward understanding instead of division. It's not just about what happened. It's about how we can honor those who came before us and embrace those we have next to us." Hope, tentative yet blooming, began stirring within Emma's chest again. They might finally be finding a path forward. But faced with a hidden mural of pain, they also stood at a transformative crossroads. What if we turned this cafe into a place of reconciliation? Grace suddenly suggested, her spirit ignited by Thomas's words. To tell our stories, to share and celebrate our differences. What if we could create a community event, one where all the history is honored together? An audible gasp moved through the crowd. The idea took root quickly. Emma felt her heart racing again. Then she hesitated. What about those who want to face it? Emma's question hung in the air, the quiet reflection of truth exposing a new kind of fear. What would they do about those who might resist this healing? The conversation paused, attentive faces narrowing into deep thoughts. Would everyone believe in this communal redemption? The weight of the old man's gaze felt heavier. And then, just as the discussion was filling with ideas of light and hope, the cafe door swung open violently. A figure stepped inside, face shrouded in anger, disrupting the fragile energy healing between them all. "Who are you to rewrite our history?" the newcomer shouted, and Emma's stomach dropped. Could this be the tipping point, fracturing them when they were on the brink of something beautiful? The anger of the newcomer hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and threatening. Emma could feel the collective breath of the cafe held in anticipation. The faces around her shifted from hope to wariness, momentarily eclipsing the light that Grace had sparked. "Who are you?" Grace asked defiantly, her voice firm but trembling. The newcomer, a man whose wrinkled brow betrayed years of bitterness, advanced with measured steps, his eyes blazing with something deeply personal. "This isn't just about your grandmother's secrets," he barked, pointing an accusatory finger at Thomas. "You old folks think you can just rewrite things? Our history isn't a play to be directed however you want." The barista, caught in the crossfire, spilled coffee onto the counter, the dark liquid pooling like the tension in the room. Emma felt her own heart racing. This was the moment where everything could collapse. "History is a part of us all," Thomas responded, his voice still steady but edged with frustration. "If we want to reshape it, we have to embrace the truth, even the ugly parts." The man shook his head, disbelief flickering across his face. "You're talking about healing. But what about those of us who were hurt still are hurt? We don't get to move on just because it feels good to you." "But that's exactly it," Grace shot back. "We never said it was going to be easy. It's about facing those pains together. We can't keep ignoring each other in this community if we're to grow." The cafe buzzed, murmurs rising and falling like waves. Emma watched as the energy shifted, ignited by Grace's courage. The anger from the newcomer might serve as a catalyst, forcing them to contemplate the very fears they had tried to sidestep. Agreement and dissent swirled, but a thread of unity began weaving through it all, threading their stories together. "What if," Emma found herself suggesting, driven by the momentum around her, "what if we invited everyone? Not just those who want reconciliation, but the ones who angry too? The ones who think the past shouldn't be messed with? We can build a space where their voices are heard." The newcomer paused, taken aback by this proposition. Other voices echoed around the cafe, some skeptical, others inspired. "That's risky," someone warned. "What if they push back harder? But what if they don't?" Emma felt the stirrings of hope rise in her chest anew. "What if we create an opportunity to understand even if it hurts? To listen instead of shouting? We need a space for those stories too." The newcomer hesitated, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. The challenge in Emma's voice offered something raw, the possibility of connection beyond anger and hurt, even if painful at first as the discourse swelled. Emma couldn't shake the weight of the moment. The cafe, once a simple gathering place, was transforming into something much larger. It was a stage for confrontation, understanding, and ultimately healing. But just as the momentum was building toward collaboration, a familiar face appeared at the window, a figure from Emma's past, whose presence might unravel everything. "Someone else is going to show up and change everything," she whispered to herself, dread creeping in. Would they be a bridge to hope, or a wall of division yet again? The air thickened, as all eyes turned toward the doorway, bracing for yet another disruption. Emma's heart pounded. Would this new arrival snuff out the burgeoning light of the cafe's conversation? Or would it bring a fresh revelation that could change everything? As the door swung open, Emma's breath caught in her throat. Standing there, framed by the warm light of the cafe, was Jenna, her childhood friend, the girl whose departure had left a gaping void in Emma's life. Memories flooded back, shared laughter, dreams, and secrets like petals scattered in the wind. But Jenna's face was etched with an unfamiliar gravity, a stark contrast to the joyful girl Emma once knew. Jenna hesitated, eyes scanning the room filled with familiar faces now caught in a whirlwind of unresolved history. She took a step forward, then paused, the hesitation palpable. "I know I didn't expect to be back here," she began, her voice breaking the tense silence hanging in the air. "But it seems I've returned at the right moment." "What do you mean?" Emma asked, her heart racing. The cafe held its breath, anticipating Jenna's next words. Words that could either deepen the rift or begin the healing. "I've been following everything," Jenna said, "and I want to share what I know. My family. We've carried burdens as deep as anyone here. The cafe wasn't just a meeting place. It was central to the divisions we faced. But I see now that these stories can unite us if we let them." A ripple of surprise swept through the crowd. The energy shifted again. Some leaned in, curious, while others hung back, wary of what Jenna might disclose. Emma felt the weight of their eyes, and she took a deep breath, sensing the importance of their next steps. "What do you know?" Grace prompted, her voice steady yet inviting. We need to understand all sides. Jenna squared her shoulders, the tension of the moment constellating in her eyes. My grandmother had a relationship with the owner, a romantic one that was hidden because it broke more than social norms. Their love was real, but it was overshadowed by their family's issues. This cafe was a lifeline for them, but it ended up as a battleground, one that carried so many whispers of pain. Whispers we all tried to ignore, Emma added, catching Jenna's gaze. But we need to listen. We need all of it, the pain, the joy, the love that people tried so hard to keep hidden. Yes, Jenna affirmed, only by facing these truths can we begin to heal. My family distanced itself from this community after what happened. We lost connections, and I think we were afraid of losing more. The crowd murmured in agreement, the weight of Jenna's words rolling through them like a wave. Emma felt the air shift, the atmosphere thickening with empathy and understanding. Perhaps this was how they all could reshape the narrative, by understanding the hurt, the betrayal, and ultimately, the love that had intertwined their fates. Let us share our stories, Emma declared, feeling the resolve strengthen inside her. Let us turn this cafe into a sanctuary, not just to serve coffee, but to foster connection. A place where our histories can be heard and finally understood. Jenna nodded, her eyes glistening. And we'll invite everyone, the families who just want to forget, and those who can't. We need a space where they can wrestle with their truths and be real with each other. The cafe buzzed with energy, excitement brewing like the coffee they served. Emma turned to the crowd, her heart pulsing in rhythm with their hopeful anticipation. We can host events, sharing sessions, storytelling nights. We'll document our history, face the difficult pieces, and celebrate the threads that bind us. Yes, a voice shouted from the back, followed by others echoing with enthusiasm. Together, in that moment, the cafe transformed from a simple building into something monumental, a space of rebirth, crafted from shared courage. Emma's hand brushed against the ledger still resting atop the counter, the weight beneath those old pages lifting as fervor blossomed in the community. But even in the swell of hope, Emma couldn't ignore the journey ahead. They were diving into depths that might reveal more than they planned. I know the road is going to be tough, she realized, but we are not just remembering the past, we are allowing it to enlighten our future. As voices rose and conversations began weaving stories, Emma watched Jenna, Grace, Thomas, and the other familiar faces all coming together. Emma felt a warmth wrap around her heart. Grounding her, it was hope, radiating like sunlight through the cafe windows. With each shared story, each painful truth laid bare, they could build a community forged in understanding and forgiveness. Stories could heal, and Emma was ready to guide them all into this new chapter, hand in hand, committed to unlocking every hidden truth lost within their history. As an electrifying crescendo of enthusiasm enveloped the cafe, Emma felt gratitude swelling in her chest. Gratitude for her kids, for this community, for the paths that had finally converged. They would embark on this journey together, weaving a richer tapestry for their lives ahead. And as she envisioned the cafe bustling with laughter, tears, and connection, Emma knew that they would emerge stronger. This was their moment, their beautiful beginning. Together, we'll write a new chapter, she exclaimed, her voice ringing out with conviction. And yes, that's precisely when the doors of opportunity swung wide. They would embrace the truth, let it bind them closer, and craft a future bursting with potential. This was just the beginning, and Emma could feel it in her bones. They were ready to step forward, together. So, dear friends, as this transformative journey comes to a close, I urge you, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Show your support. Only true fans understand the value of this community.